Nobody expected Alex Eala to become the biggest story at Wimbledon. Just months after a disappointing Grand Slam exit, the 21-year-old Filipina produced a comeback that stunned the tennis world. After losing the opening set, she completely flipped the match and finished with a dominant 6-0 final set, becoming the first Filipino player in the Open era to reach the third round of Wimbledon. In just a few hours, her name was trending across the tennis world. The victory meant far more than one upset. Eala has spent years training at the Rafael Nadal Academy, and while there is no verified evidence that Rafael Nadal personally reacted with shock, the academy has proudly supported her journey from the beginning. Fans quickly connected her breakthrough to the years of hard work in Mallorca, making her Wimbledon run one of the biggest stories of the tournament. But this historic victory wasn't created in a single afternoon. The real story began months earlier, when almost everyone had started questioning whether Alex Eala could truly deliver on tennis' biggest stage. Just a few months before Wimbledon, Alex Eala's season looked completely different. Her Australian Open campaign ended in another early exit, and many wondered whether her incredible talent would ever translate into consistent Grand Slam success. Despite climbing the rankings, questions about handling the biggest stages continued to follow her. Instead of responding with words, Eala quietly went back to work, sharpening every part of her game at the Rafael Nadal Academy and building confidence tournament after tournament. By the time Wimbledon arrived, she wasn't the same player the tennis world had seen in January. She entered London as a seeded player for the first time in her career, carrying momentum, belief, and a level of confidence that would soon surprise everyone. And what happened in her opening match proved this run was no accident. Alex Eala's first-round performance sent a message that many people overlooked. She defeated her opponent with aggressive returning, powerful ground strokes, and never lost her serve once during the entire match. It wasn't just a victory, it was the performance of a player who looked completely in control. Then came the real test against Iga Świątek, the rising Australian who had just pulled off one of the tournament's biggest upsets. After dropping the opening set, Eala refused to panic. She raised her level, dominated the rallies, and finished the match with a stunning 6-0 final set that left the Wimbledon crowd in disbelief. In that moment, she didn't just reach the third round, she proved she belonged among the sport's biggest names. But an even greater challenge was waiting just around the corner. As Alex Eala's Wimbledon run captured global attention, one name kept appearing alongside hers: Rafael Nadal. Since the age of 13, Eala has developed her game at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, where she learned the discipline and fighting spirit that have become her trademark. As her victories piled up, social media filled with claims that Nadal was stunned by her breakthrough. However, there is no verified evidence that he made any dramatic public statement after her win. What is true is that the Academy has proudly supported her journey for years and celebrated her progress long before Wimbledon began. That made her success feel even more meaningful, as fans saw it as proof that years of hard work were finally paying off. But the biggest test of her career was still waiting on the other side of the draw. After making history, Alex Eala's reward was the toughest challenge imaginable: defending Wimbledon champion Iga Świątek. The matchup instantly became one of the most talked about stories of the tournament because fans still remembered Eala's stunning victory over Swiatek in Miami. This time, however, the stakes were far bigger. A place in the second week of Wimbledon was on the line, and the entire tennis world wanted to see if the young Filipina could produce another unforgettable upset. Eala showed no fear before the match, saying she knew it would be difficult but believed she was ready for the challenge. That confidence proved just how much she had grown, but regardless of the result, her historic run had already changed the future of Philippine tennis forever. What makes this Wimbledon run even more powerful is where Alex Eala came from just months earlier. At the start of the season, she suffered heavy defeats in early Grand Slam rounds, including matches where she struggled to find rhythm and confidence under pressure. Those losses raised doubts about whether she could ever deliver on the biggest stage. But instead of breaking down, she rebuilt her game step by step. Training at the Rafael Nadal Academy helped her refine her consistency, improve her decision-making, and most importantly, strengthen her mentality. By the time she arrived in London, she wasn't just chasing wins, she was playing like someone who expected to compete with the best. And that shift would soon change everything about her career. But the real turning point still had one more layer to reveal. As Eala's Wimbledon run continued, something changed beyond the court. The crowd support grew louder, especially from Filipino fans who turned every match into a home-like atmosphere inside the All England club. Even commentators began to notice that this was no longer just a promising young player, it was a rising force that the tour could no longer ignore. Each win felt more controlled, more confident, and more decisive than the last, especially her ability to finish matches without hesitation. That consistency is what separated her from earlier Grand Slam versions of herself. But just as the tennis world started adjusting to her rise, the draw delivered a moment that would define her entire tournament. When the Wimbledon draw set up her clash with a top champion-level opponent, it became clear this wasn't just a good run anymore, it was a true breakthrough moment. Eala had already shown she could handle pressure, but now she was stepping into a match where every point would be tested at the highest level. There was no more surprise factor, no underestimation from the other side. This was where real champions are separated from rising stars. Before this point, she had already proven she could survive Grand Slam pressure, erase setbacks, and dominate deciding sets. But now the question shifted, could she go even further and turn this run into something legendary? Whatever happens next, her journey had already crossed a line many thought she wouldn't reach so soon, and that's what makes this story so dangerous for the rest of the tour. Because Alex Eala didn't just arrive at Wimbledon, she broke into it, and she doesn't look like she's leaving anytime soon. Not just 21 years old, Alex Eala now finds herself in a place that once felt completely out of reach for Filipino tennis. What makes her rise so compelling isn't just the results, it's the way everything has unfolded step by step, almost like a story building toward a moment she wasn't supposed to reach this early in her career. From early Grand Slam exits where doubts quietly started to grow, to suddenly standing tall on one of the biggest stages in tennis, her journey has been shaped by setbacks, rebuilds, and breakthroughs that most fans didn't fully notice at the time. She has already delivered statement wins that shifted attention back onto her name, handled pressure sets with surprising calm, and shown that when the match tightens, she doesn't fade, she sharpens. That ability to stay composed in decisive moments is what separates rising players from those who actually start changing the hierarchy. And while social media tried to connect her momentum to dramatic reactions from legends like Rafael Nadal, the truth is more subtle. The Rafa Nadal Academy played a huge role in shaping her mentality and discipline, but what we are seeing now is the result of her own growth finally clicking on the biggest stage. What comes next will decide how far this story can really go, but one thing is already clear, this is no longer a breakthrough run or a one-tournament surprise. It feels like a shift in status, where Alex Eala is no longer being introduced as potential, she is now being studied as a real threat. Whether this moment turns into a full Grand Slam breakthrough or becomes the foundation for something even greater, one thing is already impossible to ignore, the tennis world has adjusted to Alex Eala's presence. She is no longer entering tournaments as an exciting young prospect hoping to surprise a few opponents. She is stepping onto the court as a player the biggest names must prepare for, respect, and take seriously. Every victory has added another layer to her growing reputation, and every challenge she has overcome has strengthened the belief that this is only the beginning of a much bigger story. The turning point didn't happen in a single match or a single tournament. It was built through years of sacrifice, relentless training, painful setbacks, and steady improvement. Now, with the spotlight firmly on her, the next chapter of Alex Eala's career could be even more remarkable than the one that introduced her to the world.